Hello and welcome to the fifth year of the Book Edit Writers Prize, this year judged by the dynamic Janice Urko. It's a delight to see so many faces in the audience. We have so much exciting news from our former prize winners that it is really hard to keep up with everything they've been up to. And I must say that it's just one of the things that really makes us feel really great to see how many people are doing so well after they've been finalists, and even just involved in the prize. I'm going to list some of the news, but do keep an eye on the Book Edit blog for further updates. Last year's shortlisted writer Emma Connolly Barklam has published her poetry collection Car Office with Written Off Publishing. Emma was also selected as one of the core poets for the BBC Contained Strong Language Festival in Bradford this summer. 2023 winner Joe Urell won the CWA Emerging Dagger Award in 2025 for his novel Ashland, which is very exciting. 2023 winner Pavan Amara has secured a two-book deal with the Borough Press following a three-way auction. Her debut novel Mirror Mirror won our prize back in the day, and it will be published in the spring of 2027. 2023 winner Emily Abdeni Holman was shortlisted for the BBC National Short Story Awards this year. 2022 winner Julia Rea subsequently signed with Juliet Pickering at Blake Friedman, and another winner of that year, FQ Yo, signed with Katie Greenstreet at Paper Literary for her adult fiction, and with Hannah Shepherd Literary Agency for her children's books. Another 2022 winner, Serafina Spicer Cusack, has signed with Sarah Langham at David Hyam Associates. 2022 shortlisted writer Satinder Chauhan has just been announced as a winner of the inaugural RSL Scriptorum Award. 2022 long-listed writer Hamish Majaria published the first in his thriller trilogy, The Harveen Gill Mysteries, with Pan Macmillan in October 2024, and film rights have also been sold. Another 2022 long-listed writer, Iqbal Hussain, published his debut novel Northern Boy with Unbound Firsts in 2024, and his children's debut book, The Night I Borrowed Time, will be published in early 2026 with Penguin. It goes on. Another 2022 long-listed writer, Chris Bridges, published Sick to Death with Avon Books earlier this year. 2021 winner Kate Inkle published her debut Cli-Fi novel Overspill with SRL this year. 2021 winner Malachi McIntosh subsequently won the Royal Society of Literature's Giles St Alban Award for non-fiction for his groundbreaking group biography of the Caribbean artists movement, which is due to be published by Faber and Faber in 2027. And it's called A Revolutionary Consciousness, Black Britain, Black Power and the Caribbean Artists Movement. And he's also published a short story collection, Parables, Fables and Nightmares with Emma Press in 2023. 2021 winner Hannah Hoare had her winning novel Parahumanity published in 2022 by Wild Wolf Publishing. 2021 winner Mitch Moroney launched the literary magazine Swerve in Ireland 2022, and the magazine showcases emerging writers and artists from Cork, as well as works in translation. And it went biannual this year, so Swerve's 4 and 5. It is available at the London Review Bookshop in the UK and at various bookshops in Ireland. And there's also a digital version, so you can have a look. Just look for Swerve magazine. 2021 winner Bren Gosling publishes his novel Street Sweeper with Troubadour Publishing early next year. And the novel is available for pre-order now. So you can look that up too. I mean, what a list, right? Very, very exciting. And we have no doubt that this year's winners will go on to do equally wonderful things in the years to come. So, now's the chance to snap them up. Just encouraging you. Before we hear from this year's winners, though, I have some thanks to make. Firstly, thank you to Emily Pedder for dreaming up the prize with her partner Aidan Walker and for doing all the hard work behind the scenes. Thank you to Gagan Kumar for his excellent administrative support. Last but not least, thanks to this year's illustrious judge, Janice Urko. We were really, really delighted when Janice agreed to judge the prize this year. She's an award-winning writer whose work spans stage, screen, radio and prose. Her plays include Three Birds, which won the Bruntwood Playwriting Competition, was shortlisted for the Alfred Fagan Award and the Verity Bargate Award, and subsequently adapted for the screen in this year's BBC Three hit Just Act Normal. Her debut novel, Girl Number 8, is forthcoming from Penguin US and HarperCollins UK in 2027, and she's currently represented by top literary agent Madeline Milburn. She said of judging the prize, agents say they know they're reading something great by just the opening line. I got chills reading some of the winners. So that's a nice introduction to what you're about to hear. And what a selection of stories she chose for us tonight. We'll be traveling across the world from India to Vietnam. We'll be delving into history and imagining fantastical worlds. We'll be diving into the lives of those running from trouble, running into trouble, and just living through hard times. There'll be drama, intrigue, romance, and murder. So get your tissues and drinks ready and prepare for every emotion. Kicking things off is the wonderful Summer Kendrick. What might feel like a familiar London night will soon turn strange as Summer reads from her novel, Fearfully, Wonderfully. So please welcome Summer.
Prologue. I've witnessed miracles before, plenty of them, but I'm not thinking about my mother when I order my second pint. Instead, I stare at strangers' shoes and play a game of trying to guess their income based on their footwear. The clocks have turned back, signaling the beginning of winter and the end of all things good in London. Adam insisted I watch a soccer game at the pub with him, and I came because he promised hot chips. Football, he corrects when I say soccer. Stop trying to be so British, I say. My phone buzzes in my pocket, but I silence it. It's just Gran. I'll call her later. The energy is boozy, everyone talking shit and picking at the bowls of hot chips scattered across the tables, now sticky with spilt beer. My phone buzzes. Gran again. Gran, I'm at the pub. Can I call you later? I yell down the line. She says something, but I don't catch it. Huh? Hello, Blaze? Can you hear me? I grab my coat and motion to Adam that I'm headed outside, pointing at the phone and mouthing, Gran! He nods and turns back to the soccer match on TV. Bitingly cold air hits my face as I step onto the street. I need to invest in a better coat, I think. Maybe next year. Everything is next year in London. Holidays next year, coats next year, better sex and weather next year. It's been almost 5 years worth of next years. Sorry, Gran. Can hear you now. There's some big soccer match on tonight. England versus some faraway country. A fox scampers out from between two parked cars, crossing the road towards the pub bins a few feet away. Its tail is as long as its whole body, like a toothbrush that's been used too many times. I wonder if the fox got into a fight with another animal, or if he rips the hairs from his body, like I rip the bits of skin that surround my fingernails. Blaze, darling, Gran has something she needs to tell you. She talks in third person when she's serious about something. What's wrong? It's your mother. I wait for her to continue. Darling, your mother, well, she's been found. My ear feels separate from me as it presses against the phone. There's a tinny sound. It sounds like Gran's voice, but I can't really make out what she's saying. I hear the words car and road. What do they mean? I try to say something, but my throat is blocking the words. She was found in a car on the side of a road, she repeats. A car? I picture a body in a car, lifeless, long dead, 10 years dead, dead as a doornail. A car. They're not sure whose car it is, as she obviously doesn't have a registration or a license, but they think it might have been stolen. Details, details, details. Why are we talking about my mother's driver's license? The fox pushes its nose into empty packets of crisps and tears apart used napkins with oil stains the color of unwashed hair. Found, I say, the word only a sound in my mouth. Found, I repeat. She's alive, Gran says. The words are ridiculous. My mother is dead. She's all right. Not well, but she's been hospitalized and is alive. It's a miracle, darling. A miracle. With men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. When you're back in Australia, we can drive down and see her, she says. I'm cold and my phone is cold and my arm doesn't want to hold it to my ear anymore. And what if England score another goal? Gran, gotta go. I'm out with friends. It's not a good time. Darling, I know it's a lot to I hang up. Instead of walking back inside the pub, I walk down the street towards home. The fox follows me for a few meters before I turn around and yell, "Shoo!" The fox stares for a moment and then slinks away, disappearing between a fence and the side of a Tesco Metro.
Thank you so much, Summer. I mean, I think I'd be shouting at foxes after that phone call. But you'll have to sign Summer up to find out what happens next. So it's going to be exciting, no doubt. But we're going to move from London to Vietnam now as Sophie Yanyi Lau reads from her novel Ban Meet Cute. So please welcome Sophie.
"4 days ago." Mia Kwan is hot-footing it through the airport, her Crocs squeaking hideously against the terrazzo flooring. The last bus to the city centre leaves in 5 minutes, and thanks to her doubling back for the research log she foolishly left in her seat pocket, she's now cutting it extremely fine. She bursts through the exit, grimacing as she slams into the wall of heat and humidity, and continues sprinting towards the bus stop, praying the universe is on her side for once. She skids to a halt in front of the still there bus, her triumphant smile immediately fading as it begins to pull away. A flash of dark hair, a black backpack with a watermelon patch, then the doors seal shut and the bus is gone. Mia frowns and scans the car park, hoping an untimetabled bus might materialize from the darkness. Unfortunately for her, her powers of manifestation are as yet non-existent. She sighs and hefts her bags towards the first taxi in the rank, dumping them in the trunk and slipping into the back seat. She gives the driver her address and jots down a few more research notes before the day catches up to her and her eyes drift closed. The next thing she knows, they're in front of her hostel, and she's handing over a dubiously large wad of cash. She drags her bags to the front desk, where her night promptly goes from bad to worse. "So, you're saying the room I booked isn't available?" Mia blinks at the receptionist. The stocky Vietnamese man avoids eye contact. "It was available, miss, but I just checked someone in. I messaged you for your arrival time, but you never answered. It's midnight, so I thought you weren't coming anymore." "I couldn't reply because I had no internet. I haven't activated my SIM yet," Mia reasons, trying to tamp down her frustration. "I thought I could arrive at any time since my booking was already confirmed." "I'm sorry, miss. If it's okay, I can check you into the four-person dorm. It's the smallest one we have." Mia bites her lip. It's not like she has any other choice. She nods reluctantly. "Yeah, I suppose that's fine." "Okay, let me sort out your booking right now." Mia leans against the front desk, scanning its contents absent-mindedly while she waits. A small bronze figurine holding a Vietnamese flag, leaflets and maps of Ho Chi Minh City, a laminated page of bus information, and a neat stack of forms. She tilts her head. The last person to check in was an Ariel Katz. "Okay, miss, please fill this out." The receptionist points to a blank version of the form Mia was just looking at, and she scribbles her details in quickly. He hands her a key and picks up her bigger rucksack. "Please follow me, miss." 3 days ago. Mia wakes up after the worst night's sleep of her life. The person in the bunk above hers snored like her rhinitis-ridden grandfather, and the other two guests stumbled in after an evident piss-up, seemingly determined to create as much carnage as possible in the 10-foot stretch between the door and their beds. To add to the nightmare, when she gets out of bed in the morning, there's a suspicious coloured puddle, pooling dangerously close to her slippers. She needs to move to a different hostel, ASAP. She takes a quick shower and swipes on some light makeup to hide her haggardness, then packs her bags and takes them downstairs. She picks at her eggs and toast while considering her plan for the day. She should start with an ATM. The taxi driver bled her dry. The booth is already occupied when she arrives, so Mia waits a few steps away from the glass door. She rocks back and forth on the balls of her feet, her eyes roving over her surroundings. There's a large tree further down the road, and an elderly woman has set up her banh mi cart in its shade. Two men shuffle out of the way as the cluster of eager customers begins to grow. One is tall and broad with cropped hair and absurd muscles. He scratches the back of his neck as he chats with his friend, drawing Mia's attention to the black and grey tattoo wrapping around his bicep. The man next to him is shorter and slimmer, with messy brown curls and wire-rimmed glasses, and a tote bag slung over one shoulder. The door in front of Mia is thrown open then, and a man sweeps past her, joining the two under the tree. His cologne lingers in the air, sweet and slightly citrusy. Mia turns her head, eyeing him surreptitiously. His hair is dark, teetering on the edge of a mullet, and his features are sharp and masculine. Thick eyebrows, a strong nose, perfectly trimmed facial hair framing unfairly full lips. He tucks his wallet into the back pocket of his jeans, and Mia's gaze falls to his arms, which are toned and tanned. Her mind begins to wander to other parts of him that might also be toned and tanned. She flushes and hurries inside the ATM. She's evidently been celibate for far too long. She inserts her card and enters her PIN, choosing a withdrawal amount with a mind-boggling number of zeros. The machine makes a weird whirring noise, then a singular sad beep. An error message appears. We are unable to dispense the amount you requested. Please try again later. Mia stares at the screen. This cannot be happening. 2 days ago. After a restful night in a private room with a king-size bed and far more pillows than strictly necessary, Mia oversleeps and misses her hostel breakfast. Not ideal, especially considering she's already spending beyond her budget. She scrolls through her carefully crafted list of cafes and decides on Sundays in Saigon, the supposed home of the best salt coffee in town, arriving just as a server leaves the host podium to lead 3 people upstairs.
Oh, thank you, Sophie. I wonder when we'll see that impossibly handsome man again. I feel it might not be before too long. Yes, well, we're moving away from romance though now, and some good humor, and heading into India's past. You might need to steel yourself a little bit for this extract. Sudhana Singh will be reading from her novel, A Handful of Grain. So please welcome Sudhana.
Bhatpara village, India, July 1893. They were the first travellers on the dirt path. Their bare feet hardly marked the shriveled, cracked earth. The trees still waited for the monsoon rains to grow their leaves, and the spider thread riverbeds were barren wives. Bleached animal bones lay strewn alongside the gullies. A light wind flung swirling dust. Aditi bit the gritty sand and shook granules from her sari. The movement made her baby sister stir. Her raspy breaths rattled her tiny ribcage. She'd stopped sucking her clenched fists with her blackened lips now. When she was awake, her brittle cries plunged nails into Aditi's eardrums. But that wasn't the only reason she was grateful the baby was asleep. Aditi dreaded looking at her eyes. They were dark, sunken pits. They followed her, pleading. Mataji turned to check on the baby as Pita quickened his step. Her parents knew that once the red ball of sun rose, it would bring choking heat, buzzing flies, biting hunger, and that would wake the baby. Chai, chai, the seller's voice rang through the bazaar. Mataji licked her parched lips and stared at the terracotta cups of hot, milky tea. Atta, family surged forward, eyeing the wheat flour. The aroma of bhajiyas made Aditi feel faint. Pita steered them towards a corner of the bazaar. A woman sat on a grass mat. Her infant crawled close by. Mataji knelt beside her and handed the baby to the lady, who settled her across her lap and covered the baby's face with her sari. Baby latched and suckled, making mewling sounds. Pita took out a coin for the woman's husband. He shook his head, but Pita placed it in his hand and closed the man's fingers around it. Come, Putri, I must buy cow's milk to take home. Aditi followed her father. A large crowd had gathered in the center of the bazaar. They walked to the front. Food grains? There's a mountain of grains. Rice, atta, dals. A speaker stood on a wooden box, addressing his audience. The villagers moved closer, forming a circle around him. Every man will have his own house. Wives can work too. They will be paid. He focused on a group of men. Your families will never go hungry again. He flicked his hand as if he'd banished the searing pain from their bellies. He glanced at the women. Your children can see the doctor and get free medicine. How much will we be paid? A villager shouted. The speaker looked into the man's eyes. Oh, if you sign, you won't earn rupees. No, my friend, you will take home British money. So much I can't translate. The crowd clamored. Their voices rose in a barrage of questions. Where is this place? A muscular youth asked. Port Natal. We need strong boys like you. The speaker lifted his head and raised his open palms to the heavens. The weather, oh, you'd be in Vaikunta. The trees grow wide to give shade. The sugar is like nectar. The cows are heavy with milk. He turned to the village elders. His voice fell to a near whisper. After 5 years, your sons will get land. Who is he, Pita? Her father put his arm around Aditi's shoulders. He's an Akati. He visits bazaars to get young men to work on sugarcane plantations. The Akati's voice rose to a crescendo. Don't miss this rare opportunity. The ship leaves Calcutta in 4 days. Free passage only if you sign. Men from neighboring villages stampeded. Aditi turned to Pita. Mataji and the baby need you. She paused. But I can go. Her father's eyes widened. But you're only 17. You'll have no father or husband to protect you. No. She took his hand. We could ask my cousin Anand to come with me. You heard the Akati Pita. I'll earn so much. Just think. The baby will have milk every day. Mataji will get better once she eats. Her father's throat convulsed. He closed his eyes, as if seeking an answer from God. Then he opened them and touched her face. I can't do that to you, my Patri. Rather, I go. But Pita, who will look after Mataji? It has to be me. She didn't want to point out what they both knew. Last week, his hacking cough made him spit blood. He was silent. After a while, he sighed, resigned. Come, we'll give him 2 names. She followed him as he waded through the crowd towards the Akati. 2 days before she was to leave, Pita pleaded with the villagers for a loan. Aditi watched neighbors unwrap their meager life savings from secret places in their dark homes. They counted and recounted coins. They stared at her, their eyes filled with awe. She was allowed near the men and sat cross-legged next to Pita. They drank boiled smoky water, served with such love and ceremony. It felt like sherbet she tasted only once when she was 4. Pita left every home with the words, I promise you, Bhai, you have my word of honor. I will pay you back. After all, my Putri is going to be rich. In 5 years, she will return, her head held high, an independent woman. Mataji used the money to buy atta for roti and clothes for the journey. They couldn't let their daughter go to Calcutta with a torn sari and tight blouse, she told Aditi. The day of departure came too soon. Aditi dressed in her new sari. It still had the folds from the market. Mataji tied her coat and spare sari in a small cloth bundle. She gave her rotis and pressed 5 rupees into her palm. Her creased hands moved to pat Aditi's head. But her wedding bangles were gone. Tears rolled down her hollow cheeks. Aditi wiped them with her fingers. She knew that the jewelry was meant to pay for medicine and Mataji's funeral one day.
Oh, thank you so much, Sadhana. You really do transport us into your character's world. And yes, you're leaving us feeling very anxious, but we're really willing things will go right for your characters. And in a way, we can now set those worries aside because and put them on hold because we're going to shift. And we're going to head to Manchester in the 90s next. So it'll be a bit of a move. Louise told me we'll be reading from her novel, Get a Life, Sean Paulson. So please welcome Louise.
Paulson DIY was 1,100 square feet of generational grit, 2,000 shades of Dulux, and endless paper bags of Artex. Grandad started the business when he got fed up working the production line at Ramsey's Bicycles, where for 26 years he polished front forks with an emery cloth. I never knew what that entailed, but it sounded like the kind of mind-melting task dished out in Siberian penal colonies. Dad was the heir apparent to Paulson DIY, another natural at fiddly tasks and worshipping at the altar of functionality and exactness. Then there was me, left-handed, therefore cat-handed, head tilted elsewhere, therefore a liability with a hammer or chisel. I would turn 16 in less than a year. Dad told me that by 16, he had constructed a dog kennel with mineral wool roof insulation. Just for kicks, he added a working doorbell that played 3 different melodies. Every Friday after school, Dad took me to our DIY shop. The store was in a rough part of town. On one side was a Kurdish barber shop that offered a photographic selection of skinhead variations, and on the other, empty premises that had been mauled with Ronald Rat graffiti. But ours was a spacious property with abundant metal shelving and plenty of parking to the rear. There was a basement and an attic to augment the permanency of the business. In DIY, I was a left-back for Doncaster Rovers, while Dad was Roberto Baggio at Juventus. His talents were God-given. Double-jointed wrists meant he could wield any style hammer, drill or wrench and get any size nail to go into a wall at any angle. Spirit levels were for idiots, the tool of failures and those who possessed inferior skeletal structures. Precision was his manifesto. He didn't like me for lots of reasons, main one being that I wasn't Adele, star daughter, but chiefly he couldn't stand that his only son was a DIY moron. By age 10, I'd fallen off the stepladder and split the side of my head open. At 12, I impaled the skin of my hand on a 10mm nail and needed 2 stitches. On that occasion, Dad said I was trying to be Jesus Christ before I could handle a paint roller. And yet, we persisted. Another Friday at Paulson DIY rolled around. Another chance for me to win Dad over, or else royally fuck things up. Dad had on his favourite luminous Bermuda shorts and AC/DC back in black t-shirt. It had been a gift from one of his best customers at the shop. Heavy metal. In fact, I thought it was shit. Now I need unadulterated focus. You're an owl, Sean, hunting deep into the night. If you don't focus and mouse, your whole family will go hungry. Or fly too low when hunting and you could get hit by a car. I need you to thrive on the plane of excellence, not die from starvation or collisions. Channel only Paulson worthiness into your saw. Got it, lad? Before me lay a few different pieces of wood of varying lengths and densities, plus a sheet of steel and a narrow metal pipe. Next to that, the saws. I had the grim thought that a cannibal would covet Dad's vast collection of saws, but I was supposed to be an owl, a noble hunter, not a disgusting serial killer who feasted on the fingers and toes of unfortunate souls. Dad let me choose. I went for a saw that looked a bit like a meat cleaver. All right, tell me which material is best cut with this saw. I looked him dead in the eye. Sean Paulson, confident owl. Wood? Dad rolled his eyes. Are you saying wood because it's obvious, or because you really believe it? I shrugged. Well, your instincts are all wrong. As per usual, Sean. You went for an insulation saw, best used on extruded polystyrene and cellular plastic. Can you tell me what makes extruded polystyrene a superior insulation product? I gripped the saw's handle, pathetically hoping for allyship from the inert object. Again, I shrugged. This time, Dad was not so generous with his feedback. How am I ever supposed to leave this business to you? You're thicker than a plank of Potcolt's wood. Pick up that saw at the end. Show me you can at least dissect a 2x2 without losing a digit. I turned away. I was over crying for my failures and Dad picking holes in me. though I hated anyone seeing my flushed cheeks of failure. Adele's skin did the same thing when she was embarrassed or upset, but my parents called it cute. Little ragdoll Adele. I held on to the flimsy piece of wood with one hand, saw in the other. Just 30 more minutes of pained DIY instruction before I ducked out and cut across town to my proper part-time job, working at Rossall Videos. Dad hated that I'd chosen that joint over his, but the benefits were obvious. Actual money for my time, a cooler industry, proximity to Mr. Rossall, shady and slick proprietor of 3 local businesses, not just one like my egomaniac dad. What about this? It's not so bad. I showed him the piece of wood I'd sliced. Down the middle would have been the obvious point of dissection. Instead, I was left with one gnarly piece of timber and one micro casualty. Dad picked them up and held the tiny fragment closest to my head, the larger piece closest to his. Your brain, my brain. One day you might evolve, Sean, but we've got a hell of a job on our hands. Do you have anything to say for yourself about today's practical lesson? I shook my head. A lie. I had plenty to say, but nothing that wasn't riddled with expletives and loathing. Fuck Paulson DIY. A far better Friday awaited at Rossall Videos.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Louise. I mean, poor Sean. I'm really hoping he's going to have some fun in the video shop because, you know, when reading your summary in the chat, you're like, oh, he's going to have a lot more he's going to have to deal with soon. But yes, we're going to have to leave Sean there, hopefully on the way to a better evening. And we're going to take a journey into a different world now as Phil Callahan reads from his novel, The Cursed Detective. So please welcome Phil.
I hated driving in Freaktown, especially after dark. But when you're called there to a murder scene, you've got no choice. Teeth gritted, I eased my old Audi down narrow roads, past whitewashed houses with carved eaves and street signs daubed with fey marks. Ever since the fey lords had crawled out from under the hollow hills and struck a deal with the government, there'd been fey lurking somewhere in the city. The locals called it the Fey Quarter, but it was bigger than that. For 80 years it had spread across the city of Westborough like a river bursting its banks, messy and unstoppable. I crossed more conventional areas of Freaktown, their brick terraces huddled along the roadside like a bus queue. Drove past areas still occupied by decent human folk, which nestled against modern estates for fine fey living. And like it or not, they were British citizens, and it was my hapless lot to police them. Near the prestigious heart of the quarter, I turned onto Hawthorne Close, rolling to a stop at a stack of glass-fronted apartments. The engine coughed once and died, taking the aircon with it. I paused, confused. Where was the crime scene tape? The cordon of uniforms? I rechecked the address. I was in the right place because an aging Volvo, Detective Superintendent Forrest's ride, was parked out front. Where was everyone else? The boss had called me in herself rather than dispatch. This better not be some joke. There'd been a bit of that lately, but Mina Forrest was a proper copper, even if she'd gone political. She'd always put the job first, and if she was here, there was work to be done. Just past 10 at night, and the heat was still intense as I climbed out of my car and strode past waist-high shrubs towards the apartment block's main door. Perspiration glued my shirt to my back in seconds. Game show noise burbled from a window, but otherwise the street was quiet. I glanced around, studying the deep shadows that surrounded the apartment building, every inch of my skin alert for the telltale prickle of fey magic, but my instincts told me that any danger was gone. I pushed through into the lobby. A stocky, dark-suited fellow with floppy hair and a police lanyard propped up the far wall by the stairs. His face was rendered demonic in the gloom, lit from below by his mobile phone. I suppressed a sigh. Forest constables were interchangeable, and she liked them young and cocky. The door banged shut, and he startled. Pale eyes met mine, and I showed my warrant card. D.I. John Feeney. I pocketed my credentials and stepped closer. Are you DSU Forest's driver? Yeah, boss, he said, his London accent clipping the words. I seen you round. He leaned back again, gaze sliding down to his phone. Flippin' kids. No respect at all. All a bit irregular, this, I gestured. Yeah. He drew the word out and nodded towards the stairs. Gov's at the scene. 3rd floor. No lift. I sighed and started the climb, knees protesting. Bloody freak town. Mina Forrest was at the apartment door, speaking urgently into her phone. Her hair was short and sleek like a grey helmet and offset by a strong jaw. A dark coat covered her sequined gown. She ended the call and flicked a cold glance at me. I stared back. "About time, Feeney," she said, Cornish lilt softening her tone. "Scene's been processed." Mina never gave away much at a scene, some nonsense about getting a fresh take, so I pulled on gloves and followed her in. We entered a living space which was tidy and surprisingly modern. White walls, dark furniture, and glass. Foliage trailed from high shelves, while spindly crimson pottery was grouped lower down. It spoke of prosperity and taste, and I'd never seen much of either from the Fae. It bore the telltale signs of a light search, and over it all, a dusting of fingerprint powder. We passed through into a pastel yellow bedroom. The bed was pristine, with a diamond of violet throw cushions. No signs of a disturbance. Light spilled in through an open door on the far wall, the ensuite. I grimaced. After 20 years, a murder scene still got me in the guts. Best get it done with. I stepped over the threshold. The bathroom's elegance was spoiled by 3 things: splashes of water everywhere, a blue Fae rune scrawled on the tiles by the tub, and a dead woman. She was young and petite, and lay in a bath which was massive, with a rolled top and golden lion's feet. The water had been drained, leaving dark hair draped over her face like seaweed. A strange, bitter scent cut through the floral perfume of toiletries, and a chunky blue candle lay, unlit, cupped in her right hand. "Leandra Silver, 25, said Forrest. "It smells from some sort of plant extract. Forensics have taken swabs." I gestured to the Fae rune scrawled over the tub. "What does the mark say?" "Murder." "Is that so?" I lifted the blue candle from her hand and brought it closer to the light. Its lower edge was flattened like a used crayon. She must have drawn the rune with the last of her strength. You couldn't make it up. Who was this woman? On an impulse, I swept aside the hair covering the dead woman's face. Her skin was chalky, cold through my gloves. Her full lips were too pale, and there was surprise in her eyes. I shivered, flinching reflexively. The tales I learned at my mum's knee say you can be ensnared by staring into the eyes of a dead Fae. Dark, fixed, vacant, and greedy for a new soul. But I'm not a superstitious man, honest to God. Mina Forrest was staring at me, working on a frown. But we could leave already. I'd seen what I needed to.
Oh, thank you, Phil. I can see that bathroom murder scene a little bit too clearly, very evocative. But if you want to find out who done it, you're going to have to get in touch with Phil, I'm afraid. So yeah, we're going to head into the very real world of immigration and deportation now with M.H. Dukan as he reads from his novel Witness We Give. So please welcome Hussein.
January. Wherever you are in a detention center, there is always a chill. Immigration required this interview. Mrs. Afriyu, you claim to have entered into a marriage with a European national. There are doubts as to the reason why. Well, I'd flown into Britain with a doctored passport, yes, but I'd been married here for some 2 decades now. Back then, Britain was like a garden. Eden almost, where anyone could wander through. The year I arrived, I met my Coco, and whenever people asked how we met, I said, when you get with a man like that, you just do. You get on with things. His life became mine, and the son that came bundled with him became our son. Arm in arm, he paraded me around at his congregation's barbecue. There, the oldest woman blocked our way. Study her, she announced. This one, she's a real beauty. I looked up at the officer. It was love. Need I say more? Act 1. Several months earlier. October. All's not well. I'd knelt in the Garden of Eden, but wolves chased me from there. Who knew grocery shopping would become so difficult these days? Tiled pavements had eroded back into cobblestones, woven musky alleyways, and terraced streets. I'd gotten home late, so I stood blazing my chicken soup rather than letting it bubble. Coco lay in wait, just beyond arm's reach, at our dining table, reading. He scrunched at a letter to a crinkle. "Oh, what's that?" I asked. "Airmail?" He slapped at his letter, took off his glasses, and rubbed the wrinkles along his forehead. Whenever he read, he'd certainly have something to say to me. I sweated, stirring my Dutch oven pot. Onion smoke black overwhelmed my every taste. It would have to do. I splashed an overflowing ladle of hearty soup from the bottom of the pot into Coco's bowl. But when I carried it over, serving him over his shoulder, he turned that letter he was reading away from me. I wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. Our kitchen, my caboose at the back of the shack that was our terrace house, was always lit that same ailing yellow. Only with our son had we been blessed with the Lord's glow. Coco huffed. I wiped away the sweat irritating my brow. What's wrong? Coco ate, yet he still held the letter in his free hand. He's asking me, he's addressing me, but from who or from where did that rascal learn to speak so politely? A letter about our son? No, a letter from our son. I hurried to sit. Coco tapped my empty placemat. Please, close the window. I don't want our good neighbors hearing me eat. The wooden window lay off its latch behind Coco, also behind him, and letting a chill inside, the wide-open back door. I closed both. I plodded back to the heat of the stove and skimmed for myself a lighter ladle of soup into a smaller bowl. When I sat again, still wearing my apron, a lifeless, shredded envelope seated at our third placemat disturbed me from saying grace. Words we didn't speak in our house unsettled me. Her Majesty's pleasure. Coco trawled a piece of fufu around his soup while still fixated on the letter. The boy claims I abandoned him. Rascal. He slammed that letter to the table, shoved fufu into his mouth, and spluttered. He can't blame anyone. Tell him he abandoned himself. Well, he's asking for you now. A boy like this deserves help? He stared my way, but clearly didn't want to hear whatever I had to say. He shot more fufu in a gluttonous circle around his bowl. A delinquent in the dark. What good is he now gallivanting in prison? He'll always be your son. That whoever sitting his backside in Woodhill is no one's son. Coco. Father, he writes. How dare he call me this? That armed robber has no father. My son's that little boy in the picture hanging in the sitting room. Our son had sat imprisoned for so long. Lord, how long had it been? At least 7 years, and his sentence would soon end. But to Coco, never would it. I was minded to point out the sin in that. He shall always be your flesh and blood. No, he's the flesh and blood of his mother. He ripped his fufu into two. All he wanted was me signing my name. A European passport, a permit, a visa. No, none of these for him. What can I sign my name to? That the rascal is my loving dependent? Coco's handsome Ghanaian timbre lost. His Ghanaian praiseworthiness too. Coco was a European man. Well, a Ghanaian with a Belgian passport. Our son had asked to have a passport of his own many times. I'd never pushed for it. We were in Britain. We go to Southend-on-Sea, Brighton, Blackpool or Torquay. We'd no need to holiday abroad. Coco tore at his fufu. He's unwanted. He's Obimpe. Don't call him that. I untied my apron, so stifling, and threw the raggedy thing to the table. He's your boy. He's our Darius. By the look of his stare, he was in absolute denial. He's no one's Darius, he blurted out. Do I come live in the cold only to raise a thief? The government's right, deport him. Government what? I shot forward, rocking our soup bowls. He's supposed to come back. His sentence is supposed to end. Come Easter, he's to have freedom. How can they? He's British. My dear, you forget. The dangerous crook spent how long on remand? His sentence? It's finished. And what's British about him? He's finished. Send him to Ghana? No, we don't want rascals there. Send him back to his birth mother. Tie him to a plane. He can cry in Nigeria.
Woof. Wow, thank you, Hussein. What a performance. And yeah, I mean, we really hope things are going to work out for Darius, but again, you'll have to be in touch with Hussein to find out. Thank you so much for that. Right now, we're going to head to a completely different kind of family drama with Kirsty Purnell as she reads from her novel, Roots. So please welcome Kirsty. 1 second. Thanks, Kirsty.
Travis stared at the face of the clock, each of the 12 numbers substituted for a type of garden bird. She'd been sat there 23 minutes and hadn't come remotely close to breaking the news to Mammy. She sucked the air through her teeth and sighed. Rinsing the free bar at her cousin's wedding had been a critical mistake. Marcus was squashed thigh to thigh with her on the chair, which Mammy insisted was a two-seater sofa. His eyes roved between discarded copies of The Sun and overflowing ashtrays. He was like a little boy in a foreign country, taking it all in. Go on, he whispered. His breath was hot with last night's tequila. Caris nodded, grim-faced. I will, she said quietly. 5 minutes. Mammy opened and slammed cupboards and drawers in the kitchen. She was still in her nightie, even though it was gone noon, and angry varicose veins bulged from her calves. While she waited for the kettle to boil, she whined along to a song on the radio without knowing a single word of it. Dread burrowed like a beaver in Caris's belly. Her mother was in a good mood, but not for long. Is he having milk and sugar, Mammy called. Just milk for me, please, Anne, said Marcus through a yawn. He stretched his legs, long and languorous. He looked too big for the room. What? Called Mammy. Just milk, snapped Caris. She turned away from the shock on Marcus's face, scraped her fingernails along the armrest, and watched dust jump out like confetti. She shouldn't have brought him. Not today. Her battle plan had been simple. Rip the plaster clean off. She'd visualised herself striding into Mammy's house with grace and poise and looking her straight in the eye to say, Mammy, we're moving to Dubai in 3 weeks. Bravely, unapologetically, like the fierce woman she knew she could be. But the bollocks she'd strapped on for the occasion had withered to prunes when confronted with her mother's force. They hadn't even taken their shoes off before Mammy began cycling through a list of grievances, like that bitch Tina from work and next door's dog shitting on her garden path. Christ, Mammy roared. Caris turned. Her mother's broad frame jolted backwards, a teaspoon dangling from her fingers. Scalding streams of water leapt from the open kettle and splattered onto the worktop. Car, love, called her mother from the kitchen. You're going to have to go on the internet and get me a new kettle. I'll be at Prince Charles with 3rd-degree burns at this bloody rate. I can show you how to do it if you like, Ma'am, said Caris. Her voice was small, even hopeful. It's not that hard to do. Mammy bent to get the kitchen roll from under the sink. Nah, you do it better than me. Caris swept desperate, see what I mean, eyes to Marcus, but found no sympathy. His chest bobbed with quiet laughter. She looked away. The prick. Each of the mismatched cups tinkled a different tune as Mammy stirred the tea. Her mother shuffled into the living room with 2 brimming cups, battered slippers flapping against the carpet. Thanks, Anne, said Marcus as she put his cup down. Tea splashed onto the table. Have you got a coaster? Coaster? Her brows furrowed. No, love. Mammy went back to the kitchen and Carrie stayed at the puddle of tea. The radio clicked off. There was silence. Carris's hands writhed like eels in her lap, and Mammy returned with chocolate digestives and her cup and sank groaning into the chair. Marcus's hand rubbed the bottom of her back, her cue to launch into the news, presumably. Carris wiggled forward and licked her dry lips. Right, Mum. Her voice was thin as tracing paper. She looked at Marcus. He looked serene, if not a bit bored. We've got something we... Go on then, interrupted Mammy, voice thick with biscuit crumbs. Tell me. Carris's nose wrinkled in confusion. What? Well, about the wedding, innit? Come on, don't leave me hanging. It was lovely, said Marcus. Beautiful weather. And very different. He sipped his tea. I've never been to a wedding in a community centre before. Mammy blinked furiously, eyes ravenous for details. Did your father go, Car? Carris nodded. Has he got a new piece now, Anne? Did his mother go? Sweat pricked Carris's armpits. The words she needed to say were choking her. Ma'am, she said, inhaled like a bull ready to charge. Me and Marcus. Her father's family never liked me, said Mammy. Thought I wasn't good enough for him. They didn't. I remember. For fuck's sake, Mammy, would you shut up a minute? Screeched Carris. Marcus sucked the air from the room with his gasp, and Mammy sat back slowly in the chair, folding her arms over her ample belly. I was only trying to ask how your day was, Carris. Look, Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I've really got to tell you. As a matter of fact, interrupted Mammy. She slid a pack of Super Kings across the table towards her. I've got something to tell you as well, Carris. Carris threw her head back and stared at the once white, now yellow ceiling. Why did everything need to be so hard? Mammy slammed an industrial-sized ashtray on the table. Crushed nips inside quivered. Mammy, squeaked Carris, can you not smoke when Marcus is in here? Her mother looked pointedly at Marcus. You don't mind, do you? Marcus cleared his throat. Mammy tapped the end of her ciggy on the table and put it in her mouth. See? He don't mind. Carris frowned an apology at Marcus. Today was a day of many hills, and this was not the one to die on. Go on there, Ma'am. What do you need to say? I'm not well, said Mammy. Okay. Your back's hurting again, is it? No. Mammy lit a cigarette and sucked deeply. The tip glowed furnace orange. Blood pressure then. Mammy blew tubes of smoke through her nostrils and shook her head. Carris stared at her mother through the haze. Well? Her hands closed into little fists. What is it then? Mammy dropped her gaze and picked at her nail. When she looked up, her eyes were as doleful as Princess Diana. I've got cancer.
Oh, thanks, Kirsty. I mean, it's a terrible announcement, but I mean, it's just so funny, the relationship between the two of them. So brilliantly done. You've really taken us into that small living room. It's fantastic. Brilliant black comedy. What an opening. But we're not going to stop there. We are heading to Goa next as our final writer, Uduak Abasi Ekong, reads from her novel, Becoming K.J. Miller. So please welcome Uduak Abasi.
Someone called my name, but I didn't answer. The shrill voice cut through everything. Trinkets clinking like wind chimes, buyers haggling with exasperated sellers, the ocean roaring as it swallowed the shore, until it reached me at the flower stall. Maybe it was the grey wig itching into my scalp, or the matching pencil or eyebrows that made them pitch my name upward, as if unsure it wasn't me. But my disguise was only doing its job, or it would have, if the sunglasses resting on my forehead had actually been covering my eyes. But I wanted to see everything. I'd been daydreaming about Goa since last month, following the acceptance of my proposed piece on the woman who homeschooled young girls from a village where female education was banned. I'd fall asleep to the thought of wandering through the flea market, picking out lopsided vases I didn't need but would make room for, lingering at pop-up stalls like I understood what I saw. All of it unfolding with live music playing by the beach, my hips swaying to the rhythm. I always did that whenever I traveled for work, straddled the line between research and wanderlust. In Greece, I rode a donkey through Hydros narrow lane, while there to profile the conjoined twins married to one woman. In Chile, when I wasn't sitting with the women who were rewriting the Bible through a feminist lens, I was climbing the thin air of the Andes until my lips cracked and my recorder froze. Sometimes these detours birth new stories. While in Taiwan to document a woman who had archived a decade's worth of her own menstrual blood, I wandered into the chapel shaped like a giant high heel. There, I met a nudist who later became the heart of my award-winning piece on sexual reclamation. I lived for this side quest, but someone always found me. My mother used to say fame was like a market drum. Everyone heard the beat, but no one cared who bled to play it. She said it often, especially when we encountered famous people at the airport. We lived in a self-contained flat near MM2, and she'd often head there to haul luggage for 100 naira a bag, sometimes 150 if the passenger was feeling generous. While she walked, she would leave my sister, Awanga, and I, with a single bottle of Amstel malt to share, and a dog-eared pack of wort cards to keep us entertained. I loved going to the airport. It was one of the few places I could read books outside our church stalls, books kindly lent by airport staff. It was also where I first saw how fame arrived, wrapped in noise and comfort. I couldn't understand it at first. People I had seen die in movies were suddenly walking past me. I thought they were ghosts, but even then I didn't fear them. I wanted their lives. They glided in tinted shirts, their clothes wrinkle-free, their faces untouched by worry, while sweaty men in tight suits carved paths for them through the crowd. Sometimes they even flung wads of naira into the air, and people scrambled for it while stepping over each other. All of this is vanity, my mother would mutter if she happened to be nearby. She'd turn away and fold her arms like it physically pained her to watch. To her, everything good was vain and everything miserable was virtuous. I didn't care though. I wanted that vain life. I couldn't sing, act, or play football, but I could write. I was in primary 2 ghostwriting for primary 6 students. They would hand me their topics in the morning, and by break time, I would pass them 2 full pages written in my best cursive, even careful to mimic their spelling mistakes to avoid detection. And so, every morning during prayers, while Awara dozed beside me and a lantern flickered in the corner where my father should have been, while my mother begged for me to find a husband before my face lost its youth, I prayed for my writing to make me famous and fly me far away from our life. And it did, though at a cost, but it was one I didn't mind paying. I could be rushing to a terminal, stepping out of a public bathroom, attending a funeral, and once even in the middle of getting lifted into an ambulance after driving into a manhole, and someone could tap me and say, "Excuse me, are you KJ Miller?" I would smile, nod, and play the part. Wig, sunglasses, and fake eyebrows all perfectly in place. They would gush about my column, World Wide Web, Worldwide Women, about how they, their sisters, mothers, or girlfriends had their notifications on so they didn't miss a publication. Sometimes they handed me Chris copies of my book, Middle Woman, to sign. Most times they just wanted a photo, and I'd happily pose arms akimbo. But that warm Wednesday afternoon, I didn't want to see the Andrina flea market through the tinted lens of KJ Miller, the Her Story prize winner, and the Inkwell Award recipient. I wanted to see it through mine, the woman branded a traitor to women and exiled from the literary world. And I liked what I was seeing until the voice sliced through the market home. Sanama, is that you? I dumped a pot of tuberoses in my hand onto an already crowded wooden shelf, then quickened my steps, weaving through stalls. My sunglasses slipped lower down my nose, my wig shifted, and my heart kicked against my ribs. But I didn't stop. I was nearly at the edge of the crowd when I felt a hand clamp down on my arm. I turned around and I recognized her instantly. Akebasi Francis, the worst person I could have run into here.
Oh, thank you so much, Udu Akebasi. I mean, wow, no one wants to be discovered like that when you're least expecting it, but you've really left us hanging. Who is this woman? Who is, what's she hiding from? I can't wait to find out. And on that tantalizing note of intrigue, we end our readings. I mean, what a seriously talented group of writers, a really wonderful medley of stories for you all to mull over and think about. I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. An anthology of these extracts will be sent out at the end of the week, but do look through the chat for the contact details of the authors. And of course, you can always contact Emily at the Book Edit if you're keen to get them before Friday. Thank you all for listening, cheering on these brilliant writers, writing in the chat, sending up those lovely hearts and claps. Yes, and thank you again to Emily for running this excellent prize. Thank you to Janice Oko for choosing these brilliant winners, and to Aidan Walker and Gagan Kumar for their work behind the scenes. Thank you also to the writers for reading so beautifully and really taking us into the world of their novels. Yes, the voices of the future. We really hope to read more from you very, very soon. We're going to turn off the recording now, but thank you so much, everybody, and good night.